Imagine a couple making a combined annual income of $120,000, a substantial amount of money. In theory, they should be crushing the financial game, building immense wealth, securing an early retirement, and living an elite, stress-free life, right? But reality paints a completely different picture. Instead, they turn into a couple that fights over money at the end of every month, lives paycheck to paycheck, and, oddly enough, feels much poorer than they did during their single days when they were earning only half of this amount individually. This situation isn't an isolated stroke of bad luck. Unfortunately, it is the harsh reality for the vast majority of dual-income couples today. The problem isn't that they don't earn enough. The problem is that they have fallen into a trap that stealthily and gradually erodes their financial future before they even notice what hit them. I am Wyatt. For years, I have watched countless couples with impressive combined incomes struggle on the brink of financial exhaustion, while single people earning significantly less climb the wealth ladder with ease. If you are in a relationship and can't figure out why money is a constant source of stress despite both of you working tirelessly, or if you want to avoid the financial pitfalls that ruin the majority of modern couples, don't forget to follow the channel and hit the like button if this information guides you. Let's dive straight into the heart of this massive trap that swallows almost everyone. When two people decide to merge their lives and move under the same roof, they don't structure their financial management like a strategic business partnership. Instead, they treat the process like two rivers carelessly rushing into a vast ocean. Everything gets mixed up, and at the end of the day, no one knows exactly where a single dollar is flowing. The man makes $60,000, the woman makes $60,000. Immediately, a spark ignites in their minds. We now have $120,000 of purchasing power. Driven by this illusion, they completely overhaul their lifestyle to match the societal expectation of what a $120,000 household should look like. And right here is where the entire system collapses. Let's look at how this plays out in real life through the story of Tyler and Jessica. Before their paths crossed, Tyler was earning $55,000. He shared a modest studio apartment with two roommates, paying only $800 a month in rent. He drove a 10-year-old car that was completely paid off. His grocery costs were simple, spending maybe $300 a month on food. His total monthly cost of living was around $2,000. This meant that even with a modest salary, he was able to cleanly put away about $1,500 every single month. Jessica was on a similar path with her $50,000 income. A small apartment, an economical car, and minimal expenses. She was saving an average of $1,000 a month. In total, before moving in together, these two individuals were earning $105,000 combined and saving a collective $30,000 a year, or $2,500 a month. They were quite literally on the fast track to wealth. Then they decided to move in together, and the tables turned. Looking at the $105,000 total income on the table, they thought, it's time to start living like adults. No more dealing with roommates, no more living in tiny box-like apartments, and no more driving old cars. After all, they were a respectable, six-figure earning couple. Their standard of living needed to reflect that. As a first step, they moved into a luxury two-bedroom apartment in a nice neighborhood with a monthly rent of $2,500. On paper, that sounds like a perfectly reasonable expense for a six-figure couple, doesn't it? Next, confident that they could easily afford the monthly payments, they upgraded their cars. His loan wrote off $450 a month, and hers cost $375. Cooking for two felt entirely different than managing a kitchen alone. Plus, wanting to enjoy their new relationship in life, the frequency of dining out skyrocketed. Their monthly food budget instantly ballooned from $600 to $1,500. Because they had moved into a proper apartment, more expensive furniture was bought to fill the space, and weekend getaways and vacations began as a staple of being a couple. Since they had different tastes, digital streaming subscriptions were duplicated. The result? Their monthly expenses, which totaled $4,000 when living apart, shot up to $7,000 once they moved in together. The most tragic part was that they perceived this entire situation as completely normal. To them, this was just the natural law of setting up a household. Everyone around them had told them that moving in together meant splitting rent and utilities, which would make life cheaper. Technically speaking, compared to the period when they lived alone, their individual costs seem to have dropped. However, in the macro picture, they were spending significantly more collectively and saving tragically less. This duo, who managed to save $30,000 a year while single, could barely put aside $18,000 a year now that they earned the same money together. Just by moving into the same house, $120,000 of annual savings capacity had vanished into thin air. Yet, traditional financial wisdom had promised them savings. Welcome to what we call the two-income trap. Two separate incomes create a false illusion of wealth and people, and this illusion triggers a deadly lifestyle inflation that sabotages your true capacity for wealth generation. The mechanism works like this: when you earn $50,000 on your own, you are fully aware that you are not rich. You make your decisions based on this reality, living modestly because your boundaries are clear. But when you join forces and cross the 100,000 threshold as a couple, you feel wealthy even if you really aren't. That six-figure number looks massive. It makes you believe you deserve a luxury apartment, shiny new cars, gourmet dinners, and fancy vacations. Yes, technically your cash flow is enough to pay for those things at the moment, but being able to pay for something with cash on hand and being able to own it without disrupting your wealth-building process are two completely different financial universes. When children enter the equation, this trap transforms into a full-fledged chain of financial bondage. Tyler and Jessica have now left their fifth year of marriage behind. Their salaries have risen to $65,000 and $62,000 respectively, meaning the money coming into the house is now $127,000. They should be flying high financially, right? On the contrary, with their newborn baby, they are experiencing the most stressful period of their lives. Monthly childcare and daycare expenses cost a staggering $2,000. To live comfortably with the baby, they moved into a larger 3-bedroom apartment with a rent of $3,200. Citing safety reasons, they swapped their vehicle for a larger SUV. While expenses shot out into the stratosphere, incomes merely plateaued. Now let's look at the mathematically horrifying part of the situation. Jessica sits down one day with a pen and paper to calculate the real tax burden, daycare costs, and work commuting expenses, only to face a shocking reality. Out of her gross salary of $62,000, the net benefit left for the household after all these work-related expenses is only around $20,000. She works over 40 hours a week, barely sees her baby except when the child is asleep, and experiences immense burnout, all for the sake of a measly $20,000 that gets instantly swallowed up by the bottomless pit of their inflated lifestyle. At this point, they rightfully ask, should Jessica quit her job and stay home to look after our baby? If they had maintained the modest spending habits from their single days, this decision would be the easiest choice in the world. They could have easily lived like kings on Tyler's solo income of $65,000. Back then, they were earning $105,000 and saving $30,000, which meant their baseline cost of living was only $75,000. With a little belt tightening, they could easily fit into $65,000. But now, they cannot survive on $65,000 because they have locked their lifestyle into a caliber that requires exactly $127,000 a month to operate. They are cornered. Jessica is condemned to keep working at a soul-crushing job that provides virtually no financial value, all because they built a consumption monster that demands every single penny of both paychecks. This is the most brutal face of the two-income trap. You upgrade your life to match two incomes, which means you are now chained to those two incomes for life just to survive. Neither of you can quit your job, take financial risks, or pursue high potential but initially lower-paying career opportunities. Even if those opportunities would be much better for your family's peace, personal happiness, or long-term future, you cannot take that step. You are stuck in a financial prison that requires two people to run on the treadmill forever just to maintain a superficial standard that doesn't even make you happy anymore. Now let's take Tyler and Jessica and compare them to another couple who was aware of this trap and played strategically, David and Sarah. David earns $58,000, and Sarah earns $53,000. Their total combined income is $111,000, which is less than Tyler and Jessica's. However, when moving into the same house, they adopted a completely radical and different philosophy. They sat down at the table and said, Look, up until now, both of us were getting by on our own individual incomes and saving money on top of that. What if we try to live on just one income and funnel the entirety of the second income into investments? They immediately ran the math. After taxes were deducted, David's net take-home pay was roughly $42,000. Could they live on this money? Yes, but on one condition. Not upgrading their lifestyle just because they were getting married, but locking it at their single life comfort levels. They rented a modest one-bedroom apartment for $1,400 a month in an unpretentious but highly secure neighborhood. They kept driving their paid-off old cars. Instead of going to luxury restaurants, they made cooking together at home a habit. They kept expenses to a minimum. Their total monthly living cost remained around $3,000, or $36,000 a year, which fit comfortably within David's net salary. Now for Sarah's money, not a single dollar of the $53,000 Sarah earned was touched. The entirety of that money flowed directly into savings and investment accounts. They maxed out both of their legal retirement funds, Roth IRA and 401k, to the legal limit. They established a massive emergency fund and invested the remaining cash into taxable stock market index funds. In their very first year of living together, they managed to save a whopping $48,000 in cash. Tyler and Jessica, who earned more than them, had only managed to save a mere $18,000 in the same time frame. Let's fast forward 5 years. David and Sarah's current net worth is approaching $300,000. They hold the titles to their cars, have zero debt, and the money they funneled into investments is generating massive dividends and returns all on its own. On the flip side, Tyler and Jessica's net worth after 5 years sits at just around $80,000, with the vast majority of that money tied up in locked retirement accounts they legally cannot touch. On top of that, they carry credit card debt and car loans taken out to fill that large apartment with furniture and to bridge the gap when cash got tight. Despite earning more than the other couple, they live with chronic money stress. Today, David and Sarah also have a baby. And the simple strategy they set up years ago has now transformed into a life-saving shield. Sarah leaves her job with peace of mind to take care of their child full-time. Not a single tremor or downgrade occurs in their standard of living, because their system was built entirely on David's salary from day one. They don't have to fork out $2,000 a month for daycare. Sarah can witness her child's first steps completely stress-free. Family anxiety is near zero, and since David's income comfortably covers all expenses rather than just scraping by, their investments continue to grow, albeit at a slower pace. Meanwhile, what is the situation on the other side? Tyler and Jessica are shelling out $2,000 every month to the daycare center. Both drag their feet every morning to jobs they absolutely detest. They only get to see their baby for about 2 hours in the evening, and when they put their heads on the pillow at night, they lament about why life is so hard and unfair to them. You are looking at the same life stage and similar income levels, yet two diametrically opposed life portraits. The fundamental mathematical fallacy that couples miss is this: pooling incomes into a single reservoir is not a simple addition process, it is a multiplication process that expands your appetite for spending exponentially. As a single person earning $50,000, there is a natural, hard ceiling over your expenses. Once your money runs out, you stop spending. However, when two people unite and hit the $100,000 mark, that psychological ceiling vanishes entirely. Every expenditure made with the confidence of "we earn 6 figures" is justified in the mind. That expensive apartment? We can afford it. We earn 6 figures. Of those brand new cars? We can pay for them. We earn 6 figures. That luxury vacation? We can go. We earn 6 figures, but the bitter reality hits you square in the face. Earning $100,000 collectively as a couple is never the same thing as earning $100,000 as a single individual. When a single person makes $100,000, they use the entirety of that money to finance a single. When you earn this money as a couple, there are two distinct human organisms that need to be fed, clothed, medically cared for, and have their personal desires fulfilled. The minority of couples who build true wealth while living together apply a formula that seems impossible or crazy to the vast majority of society. They live on a single income, or a budget as close to it as possible, and convert the entirety of the second income into assets and investments. This does not mean one spouse sits idly at home. It means keeping living costs at such a level that the second paycheck entering the house can be channeled directly into building the future without a single penny being touched. Consider the financial leverage this strategy creates. If you manage to get by on $50,000 a year and your total income is $100,000, you are burying a net $50,000 into investments every year. A disciplined investment plan of $50,000 annually with average market returns will make you a net millionaire in less than 15 years. You can declare your financial independence by the time you are only 40, leaving the decision of whether to work entirely up to your own preference. Now compare this to the standard couple who earns $100,000, spends $90,000 a year, and can only put away a comical $10,000. It will take them a full 40 years of uninterrupted work to achieve the same financial power. Yet, most people don't even let this savings formula cross their minds. Because this move requires rejecting the societal mask of the six-figure earning elite couple. They see other couples around them living in luxury complexes and driving late-model vehicles, and they assume that this is the correct path to follow. Nobody questions how many hours those people spend staring at the ceiling at night due to money stress behind closed doors, or how miserable they truly are. Another fatal component of the trap is that couples only talk about money after it's too late and debt is up to their throats. Tyler and Jessica rushed to move in together simply because they loved each other and wanted to spend more time side by side. They never spent a single day having a deep, serious vision talk about their financial values, what money meant to them, or how they would manage the budget at a micro level. They believed it would just sort itself out along the way. Tyler looked at financial articles online, concluded that 25% of our gross income can go to rent, that's reasonable, and signed that heavy $2,500 monthly lease. Jessica trusted Tyler, so she approved without questioning. Neither of them stopped to ask this vital question, what are we financially optimizing for in this life? Short-term comfort or permanent wealth? What is our plan for the next 5 years? Are we buying a house, having children, or aiming for early retirement? Because these dialogues never occurred, they made their choices based on the flow of the wind, not strategy. And the wind always carries a person toward maximum spending and zero savings. David and Sarah, on the other hand, exhibited the exact opposite transparency. Before packing their bags, they held that uncomfortable money meeting, which doesn't sound romantic to many but saves futures. They laid out their debts, savings, bad spending habits, and dreams on the table. They debated where they wanted their lives to be 10 years down the line. At the end of the day, they declared that they chose the immense peace of mind that financial freedom brings over showing off to the world. The plan was clear: live on one salary, save the other, and buy the right two options. That entire future-building conversation lasted only 2 hours. 2 hours of honest discomfort gifted them a lifetime of financial success. Tyler and Jessica avoided this conversation so that the magical aura of love wouldn't break, and this fake politeness cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars in lost wealth. The illusion of the joint account is another piece of this puzzle. Once couples move in together, they stop tracking expenses. What is theoretically our money turns into unchecked spending freedom in practice. Tyler and Jessica tied all of their income to a single joint account. At first glance, it looks so fair and partnership-oriented, doesn't it? But when the account was single, no one took micro-accountability for their own spending. After all, there was cash in the pool. When the money vanished into thin air at the end of the month, they looked at each other's faces in bewilderment. Tyler would spend $400 on sports equipment, easing his conscience by saying, "I work hard, I earned this." Jessica would spend $300 on clothes shopping, hiding behind the same defense. When they faced the statement at the end of the month, those classic, relationship-eroding fights broke out. "I work like a dog too, why do you get to spend money carelessly while I always have to be the responsible one?" This fight never ends, because the issue isn't the amounts spent, it's that the mission of their money was never defined in the first place. David and Sarah navigated this turn without a scratch as well. In the beginning, they kept their accounts entirely separate. They opened a joint household account strictly for shared expenses, rent, utilities, shared groceries, and dinners out as a couple. They fixed these shared expenses at $3,000 a month and transferred $1,500 per person into the account each month. All the remaining money from their salaries stayed in their individual accounts. David grew the funds under his own name with his remaining cash, and Sarah did the same with her accounts. They knew exactly down to the penny what they were spending on their personal pleasures, because what they were spending was the money in their own pockets. This isn't called distrust or stinginess, it is called financial accountability. When you are left alone with your individual account, you see with naked clarity how much you are dropping on unnecessary things. You can't blame your spouse, nor can you deceive yourself by relying on the size of a shared pool. Once the financial system stabilized and emergency funds filled up, they integrated their accounts further, but they avoided that nobody manages the money but everyone thinks it's being managed trap at the start thanks to separate accounts. The darkest final stage of this trap is golden handcuffs. The moment you lock your standard of living to the total volume of 2 salaries, you have left your freedom on the table. Today, Tyler hates his job. His manager is terrible, the work he does is meaningless, and he heads to work every morning cursing his luck. He received an offer from another company that would be great for his mental health and open up his career ladder. There's only one catch: the salary pays $10,000 less. Tyler had to reject this offer flat out, because exactly $65,000 must land in the account for the household to keep spinning. Jessica is in a different dilemma. She wants to launch her own startup, a dream she has had for years, knowing it might lose money for the first 1 to 2 years, but taking this risk is impossible because they are dependent on her paycheck. Both are condemned to pull all-nighters at soul-crushing jobs as luxury slaves just to fund a high-status lifestyle that doesn't even make them happy. David and Sarah, however, never had such a shackle. When David received a lower-paying job offer that boasted a bright future and low stress, he could say yes without a second thought because Sarah's savings stood behind them like a mountain. When Sarah wanted to start her own business, she could boldly pivot industries because the family's livelihood was not tied to that paycheck. Their financial design gave them not just luxury items, but the flexibility to make choices based on what was truly good for them in life. If you are currently in a serious relationship or on the verge of moving in with a partner, your action plan is clear. Before signing those big leases, before choosing those expensive items, sit down at that table and have that uncomfortable money talk. Lay out the debts, clarify the goals. Answer this question, do we want to look rich on the outside, or do we want to actually be rich on the inside? Are we chasing validation from others, or financial freedom? Once you make this decision, take that radical step, commit to running your life on a single income, or as close to it as possible. Keep your expense ceiling at a level that a single person can shoulder. This might mean living in a smaller home, driving an older car, or spending more time in the kitchen. It will require saying no to the fake, glamorous lives led by the couples around you. But never forget the reward you will get in return: wealth that grows at an immense speed, financial independence 90% faster than your peers, and the absolute freedom to make moves without owing anyone anything when career or life opportunities come your way. The two-income trap is a stealthy financial virus that comes by blinding people's eyes. You think you are getting rich just because you have 2 streams of income, you elevate your life to that level, and when you wake up 5 years later, you find yourself condemned to a life more indebted, more dependent, and more stressed than your single self. But you don't have to live this destiny. Turn the wheel, live below your means, and use money not just to consume, but to build a fortune that will set you free. The choice, and the future, is entirely in your hands.